with Chad Gates, the awesome Mr. Gates. He'll be talking a little bit about what's going on with the real estate markets and closings. As we've gone through Corona, we actually originally talked to him as of April 1, and I'm excited to have him back a month later as things start opening back up. So.
You ready for me?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So hope everybody's doing well. It's been a few weeks since I did one of these, and I just want to give an update as to how the closing process seems to be going, which is pretty good. We've had very few. I think we've only had one transaction that we lost because people didn't get a loan or didn't like the scenario of this virus. Everything else seems to be closing. People seem to be highly motivated once they do want to go under contract to buy. A lot of the BS that we typically deal with seems to go away. We're not getting a lot of banter back and forth between buyers and sellers and agents. Everybody seems to be pretty cooperative and looking to get things closed. So that has been real good. Lenders have been real easy to deal with. You know, the lending world hasn't really changed that much. A lot of the processors and loan officers work from home to begin with before this happened. So it's pretty normal for them. So they seem to be pretty used to it. You know, the biggest problem probably is the county and municipalities for lien searches, because a lot of they're shorthanded or they have people laid off. So it's been a little bit more difficult to get things out of that. I saw yesterday that Sarasota County raised their pricing on lien searches. So our pricing is going up by $20 a month because of that. Not sure why that happened, but it did. Still the same time frames to get things back, which is a little ridiculous. Sarasota County is about 17 business days, 22 calendar days. Manatee County is a little better at about 11. Other than that, everything seems to be going pretty good. You know, don't really see a lot of changes. I have a lot of requests for people to do mail away closings now because they don't want to come in the office. Most of those people, once they get the package, realize it's probably easier to come in and sign than it is to try to go coordinate it through their own notary and witnesses. And in doing that, they're going to be sitting there signing with somebody anyway, so they might as well come in and sign with us. We still have procedures in place where we're not letting just anybody come into the closing room. Typically, if you're not signing, I don't want you in there. Not that I don't like you, it's just that the more people that are in there, just more chance of getting contaminated. So we want to keep the realtors out. We want to keep the lenders out, all the spectators, families, that type of stuff. So we've been keeping them out of the conference rooms. And that people have been very cooperative about that. Still have a lot of people showing up though for closings with gloves on. Not really sure what that whole phenomenon is about, but if you're going to wear gloves all day, all you're doing is transmitting whatever you touch throughout the day into my office. So we make you remove your gloves. You put a new pair on if you want. Don't understand the reason for it, but most people have been cooperative with that. I've only had one couple that weren't too happy about it. Still asking everybody to wash their hands when they come in. That's about it. Other than that, it's pretty normal. Everybody's working. A lot of my staff's working from home. They probably will continue to work from home forever because it seems to be very good and they seem to be more productive, and most people can't even tell the difference that they're not there. So I think that is probably going to be a change that's going to be to the positive for my staff. I don't know how positive it is for me as an employer, but makes them happy. So we're going to see if that continues to work for us. Otherwise, we're going along pretty good. Anybody have any questions on that? I'd like to take some questions on the procedures we're doing regarding closings before I go into some thoughts about the market and where I think things are going.
I am. Does everybody see the chat box? I know there's a couple of conversations going on in it. Are there any questions? I am putting that out there. I'm glad to hear that everything is still closing, though. Why do you think that Sarasota County is so delayed? I feel like that's almost double what it was pre-corona.
No, it's the same. It's always been about 17 days for business days. They have two ladies for the last 4 or 5 years, like the two ladies that do all the lien searches in Sarasota County. One of them went out on maternity leave about a year ago. I don't know if she's back or not. And it's a secondary function of their job. It's not a primary function of their job. So they just do them when they have time, not doing their other job. So It's not a high priority for Sarasota County, therefore the time is taking longer, which maybe this price increase is going to change that. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
Okay. I don't see any questions regarding closings.
So, you know, I have a lot of time to reflect like everybody else does because we're all sitting at home and my phone's really not ringing that much. Even though we're busy, I'm not getting a lot of phone calls, which is kind of weird for me. But so I jotted down some thoughts that I have about real estate in general, and hopefully some people take this for something positive. I feel really good about real estate. I mean, I think Florida real estate's going to continue to grow. The lenders seem to be very open to lending, and the restrictions don't seem to be getting any more difficult. So there's going to be plenty of money out there. I think with all the stimulus money being pumped in the economy, people are going to have money to spend. Hopefully they spend it on real estate. I think a lot of them will. I think there's some changes that people, especially in large municipalities, large cities who live on top of each other, who are now realizing they don't have to work in New York or Chicago and can work remotely, might start thinking to moving to other places that are less dense, like Florida. So we could see some changes that way. You know, I get a lot of questions about the moratorium on evictions. It really doesn't apply to most landlords because the moratorium only really is related to houses that are rented that have federally backed mortgages. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac mortgages. Most investors don't use Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac type mortgages. Therefore, the moratorium doesn't really come into effect for foreclosures and evictions for those. Now, we do have the court system, though, kind of slowing down everything. You can still file for evictions and foreclosures in Sarasota County, but getting a hearing and getting that heard and a writ of possession issued is going to be difficult, at least for another month or two. So I would say you're probably better off to work with your tenants and try to get them through this than try to start evicting at this point in time. You know, like some of the changes that I keep seeing and I keep thinking about when it comes to residential real estate is it seems like everybody who's buying is very motivated right now. If you're out looking, they're motivated, they want to buy. Some of the BS that we usually see with a lot of buyers out there is not going on. I don't see a lot of deals, like I said, dying for any reason. I don't see a lot of back and forth between buyers and sellers after contracts are signed. So that's a good sign. There's not a lot of houses on the market. I think a lot of the sellers pulled product off the market because they're afraid of people coming in with the virus. Therefore, the stuff that's out there is scarce and people are very motivated to buy it. And I keep hearing from people that they're putting things in the market, they're selling for full price, multiple offers within 2 or 3 days of hitting the market. So that's encouraging. I know probably under the 350 market, that's true. Not really sure about the 350 to $1 million market or $1 million plus, but typically under the 350, if it's put out there, it's a decent product in the right price range. Seems to go very quickly. I think, you know, there's certain real estate that we got to be careful of, and the Sarasota market and in Florida in general. I've always been a big fan of commercial property and commercial real estate, and I think commercial is something that you have to go into and look at the risk right now. You know, buying a large apartment complex, probably not a good thing. You know, not really sure if people are going to want to continue to live on top of each other in tight quarters going forward. Buying retail strip centers, mom and pop strip centers, probably want to hold off on that and look and see what kind of happens with the market after it kind of stabilizes. You know, a lot of those businesses are going to fail. And the way we do business after this could be different. So not really sure where that's going to go. Office space, you know, something got 2 office buildings, one in Sarasota, one in Venice. You know, that space is going to change. I don't know if I need as much space as I thought I used to need, because as people are working from home, I need less space, and I think that's going to only grow. More people are going to work from home, and there's going to be less space. So typically, you know, with supply and demand, the more supply there is, less demand. Therefore, pricing is going to go down that. So I'm kind of apprehensive about any more office space at this point in time. You know, then the big thing that kind of sticks in my mind that this point regarding commercial real estate are these big box stores and these regional malls. I mean, I can't imagine how these box stores and regional malls are going to get through this without changing something. I mean, I know me particularly, I've kind of gotten used to calling or going online and ordering stuff at Best Buy or Lowe's or Home Depot and just showing up, driving in the parking lot and somebody loading up my car. I haven't been in one of the stores in 45 days. I don't know if I ever need to go back to one of those stores. So I'm kind of curious to see how these big companies with these big box retail stores are going to react to that, and whether or not that's going to still be an option for us just to drive up, or if we're going to force us to come back into this space. So, I think commercial landlords, especially really large commercial landlords, are probably wondering what their lives are going to look like after this whole thing calms down, and whether these tenants are still going to be around. So I certainly wouldn't be putting a lot of money into those types of spaces. Look at my notes here. Residential housing, I foresee, and there was a push a couple of years ago for this multi-generational housing. I think as more and more people read about, elderly dying in these nursing homes and ALFs, they're not going to be wanting to put these people in there. And I think housing that's multi-generational, that has additional suites for your mom and dad, are probably going to be something that people are going to be looking at. So if I were building right now or looking to develop, I'd probably be looking to develop some kind of multi-generational housing, so that, or at least make it an option so people could buy this and have their parents under the same roof with them and not have to worry about them being in a nursing home or ALF. There was a big push for that about 4 or 5 years ago. There was a couple of builders doing it. Don't really hear much about it now, but I think you're going to see a push towards that again. Condos, not really sure what's going to happen with that. There was some people were, not real thrilled about being locked, visitors being locked out of buildings and things like that. I think some of the condos went a little overboard and keeping people out and keeping service people out. If I lived in a condo and that was something that was going on, I probably wouldn't want to stay there, because that would bother me. So who knows how that shit's going to come out of this. It could be interesting. But more than that, I think the biggest thing that I see is, I think people from these major metropolitan cities are going to start flocking to Florida and other places that are less dense in population and have more green space, and we could see a big influx of people coming down here and continue this boom that we have going even further. One of the other ones I kind of look at that I'm kind of scared of right now are short-term vacation rentals. I mean, these people are in that business, especially ones who have invested all their money and highly leveraged the multiple properties they have, are probably at risk of losing those properties pretty soon. Not really sure where that business is going to go. I know my daughter and son-in-law worked for Evolve, or did work for Evolve in Colorado. They one of the largest vacation rental companies in the world. They had 800 employees. I think they laid off over 600 of them in the last 2 months. I'm not really sure their company will make it out of this thing. Read a lot about individuals invest their life savings in these vacation rentals, and they're highly leveraged, and now they're defaulted to mortgages because nobody's shown up for the last 30 or 45 days. On top of that, when everything opens back up, I'm not really sure. I'm a big vacation rental guy. I love always staying in VRBOs when I travel, but you don't really know how they're cleaned and how clean they really are. And I know if I go to the Ritz or the Hilton or the Hyatt, they're probably pretty clean. So it might change my thinking for a while. I'm not really sure how that's going to affect different people and different things.
I have
Sure, go ahead.
going off that. What is the regulations? Because I know that there was was it a misdemeanor that if you were to advertise a short-term rental in Florida, has that all been lifted, or where is all that at?
I'm not sure. I don't follow the criminal laws related to that. I mean, I can't imagine that advertising can be considered any type of crime. It's the fact that you're renting it. It's probably could be an issue if there's a moratorium on it. But I don't know if there's a moratorium on rentals or not when it comes to short term. I'd heard something about it, but I never really followed up with it. And it certainly isn't on my radar at this point in time, whether or not you can rent short term rentals. I know some states did put, like, I think Colorado put a 30-day moratorium on them. I'm not sure if Florida did or not.
I don't think so, because I have a friend that is renting his short-term rentals, which were supposed to be vacation. He discounted them and started renting them to essential workers that didn't want to stay at their house, so that they could be separated from their family while they were exposed, or potentially exposed, I guess, is the way to word that. So, but I don't know, and I didn't read that.
I mean, I would, my guess is that short-term rentals are probably open and people are renting them out. I was on Siesta Key last night. There seemed to be a lot of people, tourists walking around out there. So I would suspect they're probably a lot of those are renting short-term rentals out there. But I don't know. I don't know how that business model is going to work going forward. That could be something that, if you're going into that business, you need to understand it before you invest a lot of money into it, because it could be different than what we thought. The other good thing about real estate right now is mortgage rates are extremely low. I actually did a closing last Friday for a client, and their 30-year fixed rate was 2.75 with no points. And that's the lowest rate I think I've ever seen in my career when it comes to a standard mortgage. So I was pretty excited to see that. And I think, as rates continue to stay low, which they're probably going to based on what I hear from everybody out there, that's only going to drive more people into real estate and out of rentals, most likely.
So there's a couple questions in here. Samantha, I'd like to vacate tenants 3 months before their contract ends so that I can sell quickly. Are there any things I need to be mindful of during this time?
Yeah, first and foremost, you can't vacate them 3 months early because they have a contract with you. So, I mean, you can't unilaterally terminate a lease just because you want to sell it unless you have a provision in the lease that allows you to terminate it, which I doubt you do. So you need to give them notice that you're not going to renew it. And upon its expiration, they need to move out. If not, then you can start an eviction process. But beyond that, there's nothing you can do to accelerate that lease if they're paying you payments.
Leanne has a question. Can you explain the advantages of a real estate investor using a real estate attorney for real estate transactions versus a settlement company?
In Florida, it's kind of interesting. In Florida, which is different than a lot of states, attorneys are allowed to issue, or also allowed to be licensed title agents. So we issue title insurance. You go in some states like New York, the attorney actually handles the closing, but the title agent actually issues a title policy, so you have both. In Florida, you don't need that. So the advantage is, for the exact same cost you're going to pay any title company in town, you can have an attorney. An attorney went to school for many years. We have a huge malpractice policy that sits out there to protect you. And, this is what we do. Title agents, I can go online and be a licensed title agent probably in a week with a test at the end of it that probably not that difficult to take and pass, and put up a $50,000 bond, which I can buy online also for probably $50 a month, and have my own title company up and running and going down that path. So I've never understood why people want to close with anybody other than an attorney, especially saying that you're getting all this experience and knowledge for the same cost. It's not like you're paying more to have an attorney. We're charged the same amount as anybody. The other benefit to it is, when things go bad, when you have to start enforcing the terms of the contract, the title agent is not going to be able to do that because they're not an attorney, and you need an attorney to do that. So it's usually easier to get your attorney to start writing nasty letters to your seller or your buyer when they default for not paying a lot of money, when you're using them as a closing agent, rather than just calling them up out of the blue saying, hey, I'm closing with ABC Title Company, but I need you to get involved and get this thing resolved for me. It's probably going to end up costing a lot of money in attorney's fees to do that. So I'm not a big fan of title companies. I mean, I think anybody that's ever heard me talk hears me say that all the time. There just doesn't seem to be any point to them, especially when the cost is the same as using an attorney. And it doesn't have to be me. I mean, any attorney, just use an attorney. It's crazy not to. I don't understand. I think a lot of realtors refer their clients to non-attorney title companies because they think that it's easier, and they're not going to, the attorneys aren't, attorneys cause problems, and attorneys don't like to get deals closed and all those types of things. Not true whatsoever. You just shouldn't even think about it. It should just go to an attorney. Simple as that.
Jesse says, perfect answer, Chad. Not a fan of non-attorney closing agent as well.
Good. Appreciate that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, do you have something else to say on that?
Well, no, I was just going through my notes here. I don't know if people really want to hear more about my thoughts. On commercial property, I think the one segment of commercial property I would still be pretty excited about is medical space. Medical space seems to be one segment that's going to probably increase because the size of medical space is going to have to be larger because of the social distancing that's going to be going forward. So you're going to see the space needs of doctors and service providers in that industry probably being larger than they are now. So that could be pretty exciting for some landlords. And then the only other area I wanted to touch on are two other areas, kind of specialty space areas, are office warehouse. Think of your plumber, your AC guy, where his office is. That stuff was underbuilt prior to this. It's probably still underbuilt, and it's probably a good place to be if you're looking for investment in real estate. I think those could end up seeing a great appreciation, at least a need for it. And then the only one that I really have a real issue with going forward, I think, are ALFs. I just don't know how these ALFs, especially these smaller mom and pop ALFs, are going to make it between the lawsuits that could be going on and the insurance claims and the inability to get insurance or the cost of insurance going forward regarding all the problems that we read about. I just don't know how that business model is going to work in the future for a lot of the smaller ALFs out there.
Jesse has a question. How do you reconcile more medical space with telehealth as telehealth grows?
I mean, I've been using telehealth for a couple of years in my family. It's not the same. Don't really like it that much. I still go to the doctor. I think it's going to be some people are going to use it or try to use it, but to me, based on the doctors that I represent, they're all talking about needing larger spaces, larger waiting rooms, larger spaces for their staffing, those types of things. So based on that, I just have to believe that they're going to be looking for more space instead of less space.
Schools is another one that I was talking to. One of my friends is a advisor for Pinellas County. He was talking about how they're going back in August, but they have to do smaller classrooms and keep the 6 feet distancing. And she goes, that's going to be fun with kindergartners.
I'm still puzzled. I mean, I'm not a big fan of what's going on in this whole thing. I think it's completely insane what this country has done and where we're at, and how we've all sheepishly went into this and allowed this to take over our lives. And to start making recommendations regarding August and September, when we're only at the beginning of May, seems a little ridiculous to me. So, I mean, I can't imagine a school system even putting that out there, that they're talking about larger spaces. I mean, it's just crazy to me. So we'll see what happens. My feeling is let's wait till the end of June and kind of see where we're at, and then we can make some decisions about these larger spaces. My kid's been homeschooled for the last 45 days, and it's gone really easy and very well. There's probably no reason for her to go back to school other than the social side of that. A lot less stress, a lot easier. She gets up in her pajamas, does class. It's not a big deal, So I think, I was talking to a friend of mine who's on the board of a private school in Manatee County, and he was saying that his feeling is a lot of kids might not come back. A lot of families might not come back. This is a very expensive school to begin with. So the financial uncertainty could be one part of it. But, once you get a taste of the homeschooling, that alone could be a driving force to people not going back. So he thinks they could see a pretty significant decrease in enrollment in their school over the next couple of years.
Wow. It's interesting. Everything's changing. So
It certainly is.
Are there any other questions for Chad? Are you seeing more virtual closings?
No, none of those lenders will accept them. So, RON is called the remote online notarization. It's kind of been a big thud. Nobody really likes them. Lenders hate them, especially the insured, the big Freddie Mac mortgages. They all want wet signatures, and RON is not a wet signature, it's a DocuSign. So a lot of the lenders, or most of the lenders, are very concerned about having DocuSign documents, basically, especially since the 2008 meltdown and all the foreclosure actions that were going on and all the defenses that people had regarding lost documents and not signing things. These lenders are not real keen on doing it. I know Save Palm Bank, they're not allowing it for their loans at all on a commercial side. And like I said, we have not had one residential lender, national residential lender that we deal with that's allowed a remote notarization loan. So I don't really think that's got much traction. What I really hope they do is change it so that a notary like myself can sit here like I am with you right now and watch you sign documents. You send those documents back to me, and then I notarize them when I get them back. That's really what we need. That would be a great service, but it's not that at all. There's these companies out there that have notaries all over the country. So on a Florida closing, when you log on to notary.com, you might get a notary in Texas, and that notary in Texas notarizes your documents remotely. And it's all DocuSign, and that's what the pushback is by lenders. They don't like that. So hopefully the state catches on and we can change that so that I can actually watch people sign by video conference and then notarize your documents, your original documents, once you return them back to me. That's what I thought was going to happen, but it certainly didn't. So,
Kevin, I saw you unmute your microphone. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to tell Chad, it makes him look more distinguished with that little gray in his beard there. What do you see in single family homes? Hang on a minute. Why don't we change this? Single family homes doesn't seem like it's been a big hit on sales and stuff. I'm kind of surprised.
Well, what I hear from my realtors and people I talk to is the only hit is there's a lack of product out there. When I log on every morning, I go into MLS to kind of see what the new listings are, and I have it set up so it automatically populates the listings that I'm looking for in the areas I'm looking for. And typically, there's somewhere between 60 and 200 in there when I open it up. The last 45 days when I open up, there might be 8 or 9, 10 new listings in there. The pendings are down, the sales are down, everything's down in MLS, and I think there's just a lack of product out there. So from what I'm hearing from my investor clients that are doing rehabs and flips is that they're getting top dollar for everything they put out there, and that they're getting multiple offers on everything because there's just no product out there for people to buy in that price range.
That's kind of what I'm seeing up here in Bradenton.
Yeah, I know. I've had 2 or 3 people call me and tell me after they went into contract for full price, they got a dozen more contracts after that. I did have one actually that blew up this week because the seller didn't want to give an extension because he had backup contracts that was significantly higher than what the selling contract was. So we're back in that market where, excuse me, it's kind of a seller's market right now just due to the lack of inventory.
Feels good for a change.
It does. Probably gonna be around a little while, I would think. I mean, we're at the end of the season now and people are leaving, and I don't know how many houses are going to come on the market going forward, especially with snowbirds leaving. But again, it seems to be pretty strong to me.
Great, thanks.
Cool. Are there any other questions?
Yes, hi. Hello, it's Grace. Hi, Chad. Hi, Catherine.
How are you?
Good, thank you. You look good.
Thank you.
Yes, this is a different question altogether. I wanted to see if you knew anything about private pension plans versus the land trusts. Do you do any of these?
Well, I do land trusts all the time. Private pension plans, I don't touch, but they're not even in the same world. So a land trust is like any other trust. It's just a facility that allows you to own assets and manage those assets. A pension plan is a facility that allows you to own investments that can grow and do different things with, I guess. I don't know, but they're not even, land trusts are simple and easy to form, and it's just basically put together an agreement and forming the land trust. Pension plans are a whole different creature. So I can't advise you on pension plans. I can advise you on land trusts, but pension plans are outside my pay grade.
Grace, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she's bringing questions over from George's call, where George was saying to use the pension plan as a retirement account and purchase underneath the land trust for
anonymity, right? Yeah, George loves that. I know a couple of his clients that I do business with that use pension plans to do that. You know, the land trust this owns the property, so nobody really knows what's going on with it. And the pension plan actually owns the property, or owns the LLC or the land trust. You know, I've seen him talk a few times. He's really good at it. He's probably the person you should be asking about pension plans. It's not inside my real estate realm of expertise.
Okay, thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Jesse has a curveball question for you. What can you tell us about using series LLCs?
Series LLCs. I don't know what a series LLC is. Yeah, I've never heard of that terminology of series LLC.
Thank you for your candor.
Okay. Well, if he wants to elaborate as what it is, I'd like to know. I'm kind of curious now. I Google it while I'm sitting here, but.
Grace, I saw you unmute your microphone. Did you have another question?
Well, I know that George was talking about having all these LLCs, so I don't know if she was on that in that meeting, and maybe she thought he was saying serial LLC, where it's actually do an LLC for everything. He was saying, like, have multiple LLCs.
Yeah, George. You know, I've had one of the conversations one of the questions I always get is, how many properties should you have in an LLC? Are you still there?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Something just happened on my headphone. How many properties should you have in an LLC? And you know, there's no real answer to that. But George seems to think that the number is 5 to 7 properties per LLC. I think it depends on the properties that you have and what you're holding. If I'm buying $100,000 rentals, maybe 5 to 7 in an LLC would make sense. If they're all cash and I own them free and clear. If they're leveraged, I might want to have more in there because there's no equity anyways for anybody to get to. But if I was buying a $3 million apartment complex, I certainly wouldn't want that owned by the same entity that owns 4 or 5 little houses. It just doesn't seem to make sense. So I think a lot of it has to do with the class of the assets you're purchasing, whether it's a single asset LLC or it has a multiple asset LLC. But George on little houses, his theory is 5 to 7 seems to be about the right number on it.
Okay, very cool. You had the luxury of following one of George's classes. So George spoke at 11:30. So
I like what George says. George is really smart, a lot smarter than I am, and he knows his stuff very well, and he's good at it. You know, George is the one who I stole the way we do land trust. I stole from George, which is a land trust that's owned. A land trust where the beneficiary is an LLC. It's typically the only way I really want to do them. That way, and he was the one that kind of gave me that idea to start using land trust in that way. So I like to listen to George, and I think George has some great information, and you know, people should listen to what George has to say.
Yeah, George speaks very highly of you as well. He was like, if you're going to do a closing, send it to Chad. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like our little group of networking. Cool. Well, I will let you get back to your family. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hold on one second. Leanne had one more question for you, Chad, if you get a second. What is the typical cost of setting up an LLC with you guys?
Our fee and cost is $653. So it's $500 attorney fee and $153 for the filing fee.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, if there's no other questions, then I'll let you get back to family time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chad.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Catherine.
guys. Take care.